Welcome to Powering Through Life on Divas Vet Care Network. I'm your host, Teresa Sims, and I am a life, trauma, and assertiveness coach, and also an award-winning author and multiple #1 best-selling co-author. Each week on Powering Through Life, my guest and I will discuss a special topic that is close to their heart. Together, we explore the challenges they have faced in life and learn what strategies and tools they have used to power through their lives. Today, my guest is Janet Bentley, and Janet is an author, a campaigner for survivors of child sexual abuse. As founder and executive director of Courageous Survivors and Show Up for Children, Janet works to provide support to survivors and spread education and awareness about prevention. Janet is a member of RAINS, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, Speakers Bureau, a facilitator of Darkness to Light Steward of Children training, and a co-author of the international bestseller, We Choose to Thrive. Her memoir, Don't Expect Me to Cry, is in publishing and being launched in October of this year. Her story continues to be an inspiration to others. And I know Janet has inspired me in so many ways. So welcome, Janet, to Powering Through Life.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. I'm absolutely honored to be able to be here.
Oh, I look forward to our conversations all the time. I think, you have such a great gift and such an awareness that surrounds child sexual assault as a survivor that I think it's really key and important that we share your mission and your statement with the world.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a very important message and very, very dear to my heart.
Oh, I would agree, and I know that in your upcoming book launch, Don't Expect Me to Cry, refusing to let child sexual abuse steal your life, I think your message is just incredible. Would you like to share that a bit about that with us?
Sure, I would love to. So it was an emotionally packed decision to write my story, or to share all the deep feelings and secrets and things that I've carried with me for so long. The most important reason that I wanted to share my story is to give the little girl that was me a voice. She was sexually abused from the age of 4 by the very person that should have been protecting her. And she was told that she needed to keep all of this secret. She made herself the blame for the abuse as a survival technique, as a survival method. And I'm working hard, really hard, to share her story with others and hopefully let other people know that they're not alone and that you can heal from this. I'm trying very hard I should say I tried very hard to write her words and feelings as accurately as I could. I want her to feel safe, and I want her to feel validated and break the silence. And I'm hoping that my upcoming book will do that and help others in the process.
Oh, I'm very sure it will. And from what I understand from my own experience and from those of the people that I've talked to about child sexual assault and abuse, it's very common that the person that's doing the abuse wants control, wants us to keep quiet, and also does make us feel guilty, makes us feel like it's our fault, we've asked for it somehow, and that we're responsible for it. Isn't that right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of the saddest parts of the whole thing, I think, is because that trust is lost, and it's such hard work to regain that trust, but it is possible.
It is possible. That's true. It does take a lot of work, and you have to be, I think, in the right place, the right time, and the right mindset in order to make that change and have that be a lasting change for us. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
So what was the driving force behind your writing this book, and wanting to do this inner child work. I know that's so key in a lot of healing processes, and I've done it myself, and I know the value of it.
Well, I think for me, it has been and remains one of the most difficult parts of my journey in recovery and in healing is to reconnect with that inner child, that little girl that was so innocent and yet feels all the blame, feels all the shame, and that can just be triggered, at a moment's notice for me. And it's a really, I'm learning about how to grow myself back up, and to kind of let go of a lot of the character adaptations that I took on trying to survive, as a survival skill. And it's just so invasive. It's just so triggering and so invasive. And I believe that compassion is the answer or the antidote to shame. And I've been so blessed in my life to come across some of the most compassionate people in my support group, my therapy, my friends, and that's helping me heal.
Yeah, I would agree with the compassion is the key to eliminating the shame, the guilt, and all that's wrapped up in that. And, I know you mentioned having to create these personas and these different attitudes and almost a different child each time something went on. And that's really can be really difficult to address each one of those, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was reading something last night, and it was talking about this person was just petrified of being found out. And by being found out, they meant just by people knowing who they really were inside, because they had spent so much time being a different person and trying to hide what they felt was so shameful.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it can be, and it's. I know for myself, it feels like that poor little child who was innocent, did not ask for any of this, did not expect any of this. It's. We lose ourselves, we lose our soul almost. We lose.
Absolutely.
That poor child is just almost destroyed, and the person that's hurting us doesn't understand that aspect, I don't think, when things are going on. They just are concerned with whatever it is they're doing, and it does create triggers for us. I know I have mine as well, and it's good that we know them, we can identify them, and we can talk ourselves almost down from when those incidents occur. Would you think that's the same for you?
Yes, absolutely. I am in therapy at the moment, learning how to use somatic experience to bring myself out of those places and out of those triggers back into my body. I can dissociate at a second's notice if I feel or perceive, that I feel danger. And it's a process, but it works. And because we can't eliminate the triggers.
No.
There's triggers everywhere for this kind of abuse, and it's a long process, but I'm slowly learning, I think.
That's amazing that you've taken this route and chose to do this. And I find that when we have those triggers and they are post-traumatic stress related, would you agree
Absolutely.
with that? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I feel that when they're created, and I mean, I didn't realize, I thought my post-traumatic stress was from my car accident 11 years ago, but it was actually deeper than that. It went to my 3 or 4-year-old, 5-year-old child as well, and
right.
with those events that are attached to it. So the triggers can grow. They can manifest themselves in so many different ways and attach themselves almost to different aspects of life.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, would you care to, and you don't have to, but would you care to share what one trigger would be for you?
Goodness. I think for me, anytime my shame is triggered, and it's amazing how little it can take for me to be launched into a full-blown shame attack, which is what I call them. It can be a perceived insult, somebody maybe looking at me the wrong way, maybe, I mean, as silly as that. But what happens is that shame, it just takes you deep, deep, deep into it. And you are, well, I should speak for myself. I get frozen. I get to where all I want to do is dissociate, numb out, not be there. So what I've done, which has been really, which is really helping me a lot with my therapist, is we have developed a fire drill for those shame attacks.
Oh.
And yeah, and it's really, really helpful. It's actually written down, it's laminated, and I can refer to that. It has things on it like, call somebody, connect with a person, remember that this goes away, remember that this doesn't stay like this forever, and, just little things like that. And also to identify the distortions that my mind is telling me, which are, when I'm in a shame attack, are always false. Always, always, always false.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think that's a great idea, the fire drill. I like that. That's very good tools.
It's really been helpful.
Yeah, because it is just a moment in time that this is happening to you at this moment. You will be fine. You are fine. It's just a reaction to something that's triggered you. I mean, I had one yesterday.
Absolutely.
I still have visions of the car accident, and I was hit head on. And yesterday I was driving to an appointment, and all of a sudden, in my right side, I heard a great big loud bang, almost like a grenade going off, and then there was this massive flash of light. And it actually triggered me where I held my breath, my chest tightened, and I panicked in that momentary time because it sounded so familiar to the impact of the vehicles when I was hit.
Right.
And yet, when you're trying to talk yourself down to deflate that trigger, you cannot inhale. That's the worst thing you can do, because that creates that, brings all that negative stuff right into your system and holds on to that fight or flight mode. The best thing to do is to exhale, let it all out, and just say, you know what? Okay, I recognize that sign, that noise, that whatever. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm still here. I'm in this spot. That happened over there. So
exactly.
Yeah, but it does momentarily just shock your system, and it can be really difficult to deal with, can't it?
Absolutely. And another thing I do, and I've been practicing this more and more, is like, even when I'm in therapy and we're talking about difficult things, if I even start to dissociate, what I am encouraged to do is orient myself to where I am. Stupid things like, it's, 135, or there's a bump on the wall that's not smooth, or whatever it might be, just to bring yourself back into that moment. And that will help get you back into your present body,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like creating or reminding yourself that you're safe in this spot, in this time. And
exactly.
That's fascinating. I like this work. I think this is great information, Janet. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So getting back to your book and all the information that's around that, so you write about really difficult subjects. And I know your story is so inspiring and empowering for other survivors, because I've been involved in a book with you in the past, and I've really enjoyed, it's hard to say enjoy, but I do, as a survivor, enjoy your writing and your stories. So would you like to share with us in your writing of your book, Don't Expect Me to Cry, what was the most difficult part for you to write, and why was that?
Well, there were many parts that were difficult to revisit. Because when you, as you know, you've written your memoir, you relive it. I relive it when I write it and when I proof it and when I go through it again. And it's I think the parts where I describe how shameful I felt growing up, thinking, that I was so different and that I was so damaged, and which obviously as a functional adult, I know that's not true, but that little girl felt that, and it so in writing about that, I really would kind of sink into that a bit, and it was so deep, and I think that because presently, in present day, I am still trying to heal from this trauma, and I am still trying to heal from the shame, and make an effort to put the shame back where it belongs, which is not on that little girl. Mm-hmm. Those were the parts that were very challenging, I think, to be able to, kind of like what we were just talking about, reliving that shame, and it presently bringing me back into that place, and then having to use the tools and the therapy and everything to get me back into my functional adult.
Yeah, it is really challenging, isn't it? I mean, when you are writing, and you're right, I did do this myself, you go into those places, you go into those dark, for me, it was like dark closets of things that had been put away and hidden, and, to walk back into that closet and go through all of that again, it's really challenging, it's really difficult, but at the same time, I think when we're writing in those events, and relating those events, it puts the truth, the bare, raw truth into what our story is, and it creates such a powerful image of what happened for us and for our readers, right?
Absolutely. And it's, it's an awareness, and it's education, and it's for me, it was necessary. It's necessary for me to be who I am, to share what I have shared, because otherwise I have a difficult time making sense of it all, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I need something good to come out of what was so horrible, and in doing that allows me to have peace and to think that, okay, well, this really sucks what I went through, but you know what? It's going to help people, and so it had a purpose, and that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely, and you do have an incredible purpose and a great mission that you're on. And do you think that forgiveness would be a key part in this growth aspect for you, and to put this shame and trauma that you went through in its proper place? And I mean, not forgiveness necessarily for the other person, but forgiveness for yourself, for that little girl.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And forgiveness is key, and I'm working on it, and I've made progress, and I've learned that, forgiveness is not condoning, obviously. It's but it is letting go and of a lot of things that I've held on to that don't serve me anymore.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way to go forward, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's forgiveness is I think it's more important that we forgive ourselves first.
Yes.
Forgive that little child that was hurt and damaged, and because they didn't have a voice. They didn't have an ability to say, no, I don't want this to happen. No, you should stop. All that. So we didn't have a voice. So we need to say, you know what, it's okay. It's
Right.
that happened. It's all right, and I think that's where not the complete, but the beginning of growth and change and taking back your life starts.
I absolutely agree, and it's interesting the way you put that, because it has been explained to me in therapy that when you're a child, when you're that young, and you're the people that are supposed to be taking care of you, that you rely on more than anything in the whole world, if they're the ones abusing you and hurting you, as a child, you have nothing else to do to survive except for to blame yourself, because it's impossible to imagine that it's an out of control situation. Mm-hmm. So you, as a child, you have to take control. And one of the ways that I took control, and I think many others probably do, is to blame myself, to think, well, if I was better, if I wasn't so bad, maybe if I was a better person, maybe if I was perfect, whatever the thing might be, then this, it's my fault, because that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of it's a twisted thing, but you end up carrying that blame with you against yourself, and then as an adult, it's very hard to let go of that.
Yeah, very true, and it's almost to the point where as the child that's being hurt, you think you're right. When you say I didn't do something right, or I wasn't good enough for that person.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why it's almost like I'm being punished. And that's really hard to let go of, but it is possible, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And it is possible.
For sure. So what was the main catalyst behind you writing your book now at this point in your life?
Well, it's interesting. I started keeping journals when I was in my early 30s, and it was during a time period that was very difficult for me. It was the first time I'd ever went into any kind of therapy, and everything just started pouring out, and I just poured it all into journals. And then a few years ago, I had been into some pretty major depression. I went to a treatment center that dealt with my trauma, and afterwards, I had made some connections while I was in that treatment center, and one of the people that I met there, we went to a training, and anyways, long story short, we got to talking about it and about my journals and my story and all that. And he says, you should pick that up and you should write it. You should finish your story. And I don't know why it planted a seed in me, and it felt like it was the right time. And I just picked it up and got it all together. And it just felt like the timing was right to be part of the recovery that I'm doing right now.
That's fantastic, and you do know, and you feel deep in your heart and soul when that time is key. It just happens, and there's you can't talk yourself out of it, really, and there's no reason why you should either. It's exactly. Like, okay, this is our path in life, and this is what needs to happen now, and there's a higher reason for this happening now, and we need to follow through with it. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're writing it. I know when I read your chapter in We Choose to Thrive, I was really inspired by you, and I like what you wrote, and I can't wait to read your upcoming book. It's going to be fantastic, and I know it's going to change lives.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Would you like to talk a little bit about RAIN? I know in Canada here, we don't have that network, so I know that.
Well, RAIN... Yeah, RAIN is very dear to my heart, and it's such an awesome organization. It has a help line that people that have been sexually assaulted can call. It's a 24/7 hour line. They have so many resources for so many different types of sexual abuse, incest, assault, college. Just so much information. They're always there 24/7, and they run an organization called the Speakers Bureau, and what happens is people who want actual survivors to speak at events or to be involved in whatever projects, they contact RAIN, and then RAIN contacts the people that are the members of the Speakers Bureau. And it's a very worthwhile organization. I have been, that's how I got involved with We Choose to Thrive in doing that book with Becky. And I did a high school talk, and it's just a really, really, it's filled with information and help and resources.
Oh, that's wonderful. So would it be all right with RAIN and you as well if on the Divas Network, if that's all right in your bio and your information and contact information, if we list the link for RAIN as well?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'd be glad to do that, because I think it's, we're not just a Canadian group here, we're international, and the more information we share, it will spark a healing in someone and that courage in someone to take up their challenge in life and find help and reach out, and that's so important. It's just that first I'm going to try this, and that first reach out, and it's so
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, we will do that for sure with all of your contact information, Becky. So,
awesome,
or Janet, excuse me. So we mentioned Becky, and that's what got stuck in my head, who is another great lady. Janet, what's next for you right now or in the future?
Well, I think I'm going to. I've kind of started writing some more. I feel like I have another story in me. I've started writing about the healing that I'm doing, and it's not a straight road. It's filled with ups and downs and twists and turns, and it's one step forward, two steps back sometimes, and I feel the need to share that with people as well, so that I can impart hopefully more hope about the recovery process, because I know for myself, I've been very, very disillusioned at times, and thinking I'm not doing it quick enough, and thinking I'm doing it wrong or whatever. And I think that would be helpful to people. And I'm also continuing to grow my nonprofits, which the profits from any profits from my book will be going straight to that, which are the Show Up for Children and the Courageous Survivors. The Show Up for Children is directly aimed at educating people, adults who care for children, who are involved with children, about the prevention of childhood sexual abuse, and the Courageous Survivors is for adult survivors of the sexual abuse, and that's where my real passion is at the moment, to just be able to be there and help survivors know that they're not alone, and that they can do this.
That's incredible, and I like the fact that you're doing both for children and for adults, because it's totally different when the child is being abused and they're still in that child state when they are young. They need but they need a different type of care and therapy and recovery program than, for example, the adult does, who has survived all of this, and we're now in, late 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. It's a different kind of process, right? So I like the fact that I like the fact that you're doing both, and we will be sharing the links, I believe, for both of those as well.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Are you taking pre-orders for your book, Janet?
Yes, I am. And if you go to my website, which is very simple, it's just www.janetbentley.com. There's a link there to pre-order the book, and so we've received quite a few already, and it's very encouraging to me, and makes my heart happy.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to get my copy, honestly. And I
well,
think
you will be getting a signed special copy. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. I do appreciate that. So, Janet, I really want to thank you for being with us today on the Divas That Care Network, Empowering Through Life. I think your story is going to change lives, and it's going to just shake up the world and create a massive awareness around child sexual assault and abuse, and also the healing, growing process that we adults go through, that we have survived that. So thank you so
much for helping me.
Oh, anytime. And I would love to have you back again after your book launches, and we'll have another discussion about how things are progressing for you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Well, Divas, that brings together another close for another inspiring interview on Powering Through Life. I'd like to thank my incredible guest, Janet Bentley, for sharing her thoughts and wisdom with our listeners. And Divas, if you would like to connect with Janet, I will have everything, all of her contact information, the RAIN information, and the Children's Foundations listed. Go through there, contact Janet, get a hold of her book, get her copy, and go for a signed copy, because I think that's going to be incredible. And Janet, your picture will be listed there, and I think it's just fantastic what you're doing, and thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you again, Teresa.
Okay, you take care and have a great day, and thank you for listening to Powering Through Life on the Divas That Care Network.